Welcome to the 615 Locker Room Podcast. I'm your host, Wormy, with Uncle Matt here. This is a podcast where we talk about all things Nashville, Tennessee sports and some other league wide stuff for other leagues and competitions. But man, it's been a minute since we've talked, and Nashville SC has just been on a tear recently. Um, I remember, I mean, every time we win a game, I personally go back to our first episode and just think about how I was kind of skeptical. But I think like we're at a point now where we can say this is a great team. Uh, One of the best teams in the MLS right now, and it's I'll probably say this every episode, but it's just super cool to see, especially going through some tough years, going back and looking and just seeing how much of a good team we are now, and the confidence that I have in our club. Um, I wanted to do you have any thoughts regarding that? Just kind of overall.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think one of the things that was still kind of lingering as like kind of a concern for me, even through the 15 game unbeaten run we had, was that if you kind of looked at who we'd been playing through most of that run, it wasn't like we played like the top of the top. Like when we had the recent games against Philadelphia and Miami, we were kind of the first like really strong ones we'd had in a minute. There was a lot of DC United and Chicago Fire mixed in there for a stretch there, but now we've come out of it where we, can look back. We said in the two games against Columbus, obviously the most recent one, draw up there, win at our home. Philadelphia did the double against them, won both matches against them. Miami put up a good fight. Arguably we don't make two, three bonehead mistakes in that match, and it could go a completely different way. So that was kind of the one kind of sort of lingering concern I was still having a little bit, was that a lot of our results were coming against what we should look at as lesser opponents, and a lot of our goals were coming from penalties. But the last, what has it been now, two straight games with no penalties, and we're still doing okay with that. Just beat Columbus pretty handily with three goals from open play. So a lot of things that were kind of those last lingering things that I've been pessimistic about. Which is weird for me because I was first 5 years I was optimistic even through like the worst stretches of time. But like even though we were having like the best stretch in club history, I've still been like, man, but yeah, the team stink. It's a lot of penalties. And but yeah, I'm starting to fully, turn the corner and fully accept that we are legitimately one of the better teams in the league this season. The one thing I'd say so far, and I don't really know how to compare because you don't see any matchups right now, is we haven't really played that many teams from the West. We played Seattle. That was the last game before our nice little run we went on. They got a pretty good win on us, so it'll be interesting to see. The next time we have one of those longer road trips for like a West Coast match, what will that look like? Because we haven't seen one of those in a while. But we've gone against all the top teams in the East, and except for the Cincinnati match, we found a way to get a result in every single one. And if I saw an interesting stat this week when we're looking to the rematches that'll be coming up in a little while against Cincinnati and Miami, is every time Nashville SC has played a team for the second time, we've won the second match. So lost that early game to Cincinnati earlier this season. We just lost to Miami this past weekend. We'll get those teams again later on in the season, and so far, if that trend continues, we'll get our points back from those. So, I'm really having a lot of faith in this team. I'm really like this game this past Wednesday night was that really was like okay, there's something. It's not fluky. It's not just playing bad
Yeah.
teams. That this team's got something to them.
Yeah, I just want to kind of pick apart something that you said earlier. I You did a guest spot on another podcast for that is a Miami based podcast where the PK thing kind of got brought up, and I do think that we are kind of trying to bait teams into that, and that's sort of our play. You can't count on that, of course, but I think that is one of the reasons that we're getting so many penalty kicks is because that's sort of part of our process. And I think I've seen a lot of arguments in especially like golden boot race post on like Instagram and stuff where people are giving Sam Surge crap because a lot of his goals that come from penalty kicks. Personally, I don't think that's a good gripe. I think any goal is a goal. One may be more interesting than the other. Potentially, you could look at it that way, but still proud of our boy Sam for that. But that's just something I wanted to point out. And then, man, you mentioned the Columbus game, and as soon I don't know. In the first like 15 seconds, I've never seen Nashville SC that alive. And I was honestly, we're getting to the point of our like stretch of super close games where I was kind of worried going into this one just because we just came off like three really close in proximity games in terms of timeline. That was like our energy is probably going to be down. I don't want everyone going out there 100% because as the close games keep going, we get closer to someone going down with an injury potentially. But we were just on ball as soon as it started. Like the whole team was pressuring them, and it was just in, intense defense that I don't think we've kind of seen it, but we haven't. I don't feel like we've seen it at that level at the beginning of the Columbus match. But I will say, in doing that, it was fun to watch the defense. But I do think we opened the offense, and they were down at our end quicker than I would have liked to see. And that's kind of issues that we thought predicted in the season earlier that really didn't happen. But in this game, that's something that I kind of noticed. And we are in a bit more dangerous positions, I felt. But yeah, I mean, what did you think about the Columbus game?
Yeah, I thought it was an interesting sort of kind of a response to both the Miami game and the earlier game against Columbus, where, that first game we went up to Columbus and we had the lead either once or twice, and both times we didn't really seem to have the ability to kind of close it down, set up shop, and we just stayed wide open, and they were kind of able to get through us and end up equalizing and still get a good result to get a tie at Columbus. But that was a little bit frustrating to be able to be in the lead up there and not come away with all 3 points. But it felt like this game we were more and I think a big part of it may just be that Walker Zimmerman was finally back in there for the first time really regularly since the
Yeah.
concussion and then international duty. He gave us a little bit more stability to where we were kind of able to absorb pressure. We were able to let Columbus have a little bit more of the ball than a lot of teams have had against us this year, and we just knew we were going to be able to go fast against them. We were going to go over the top. We were going to be able to break and counterattack against them. So we were a little bit more willing to sit back. It wasn't quite all the way back to Gary ball, but we were a little bit more in a hanging back, letting them keep the ball if they wanted to. We weren't quite as aggressive at pressing as we have been, in a lot of the games this season. And it was more just waiting for them to make a mistake. And when they did, they pounced. And, we did that all game long. And, it was effective. It
Mm-hmm.
worked. We, kept them closed down. The shots we gave them weren't very good shots. Joe made the saves he needed to make, which I thought was like, a big turnaround from obviously the Miami game, which was, one of those games that every goalkeeper has one or two of those in a season, and you just got to put it behind you and come back strong. And he did that. I think this game was kind of the keeper he is right now. He's not making the like real world class, insane saves, but he makes the tough saves you'd expect a good keeper to make. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what we need from him, and not passing it directly player in the world's feet right in front of the goal. So I thought it was a good bounce back. I thought it was more smart, more disciplined because we were a little bit like that. It just beyond the obvious gaff on that goal, like just even in our attack, we were very. And it could have been fatigue, like you mentioned, for all the
Mm-hmm.
matches we've had recently. But Miami, we were just kind of all over the place, just loose passes, just dribbling into like three men and getting easy turnovers, just bad mistakes that we haven't really seen from Nashville SC throughout most of the season. And Columbus was like a big time course correction in that, where we were super disciplined defensively, picking out the right passes, knowing when to dribble, when to pass, when to go forward, when to come back. It was just a really smart, well worked game of soccer from the boys on that game to that day. So, I mean, and I mean, you can't talk about just the whole season and without talking about the guy that for the last like 2 or 3 weeks. I mean, he's been talked about all season, but the last 2 or 3 games, he's just been on another planet. Is Andy Nahar. You're not supposed to do the things he's doing as a right back. He's like, I think he's like third or fourth in the league in assists.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not that he's like one of like the traditional fullbacks. Like Dan Lovitz on the other side is kind of a traditional fullback where he's got 3 or 4 assists this season, and they're mostly from coming up the field, whipping in crosses. Andy Nahar is like playing like a classic 10 playmaker, just whipping balls from the field. He's checking into midfield. He's making runs, overlapping runs. The pass he played to Sam Surridge, I think it was the second goal against Columbus, just that quick, deep diagonal ball across the field, just dropped it on a dime right on Surridge's foot. Gave us just a wide open counterattack for Sam to cross into Hani and finish. I mean, like, I'm pretty sure, pardon my language, get the beat button ready in the stadium. When he hit that ball, I literally was like, holy shit. It was like, I just You don't see that at the MLS level a lot, that perfect of a pass on like a long diagonal. It's like they used to call it in like it's more common in soccer now, but for a while they used to call it the Hollywood ball. They'd be like, oh, all he does is try to play the Hollywood ball every match. But now like everybody kind of does that because you kind of have to hit those type of passes to open teams up a little bit more. But at that, and I was like, oh, that was something. But he was incredible all game long, and he has been all season long. So I just wanted to give a little
Yeah.
shout out to him. And I think one of the other guys that's had a good little run here, minus the red card and the suspension, which I think we're going to talk about. We've talked
Mhm.
about, but Johnny Perez has been in really good form, and I think a lot of that is that he's playing on the same side of the field as Andy Nahar. So when you
Yeah.
have like a fullback that causes so many problems for the other team, that just opens everything up for the fellow attacking players. Like I'm a big Manchester United fan, obviously people know that I think, but the best seasons some of our attacking players have been when they had a really talented fullback like Marcus Rashford,
Hmm.
great player. Fortunately, it looks like his time at United's coming to an end, but like his best season a couple of years ago, he had like 30 goals in all competitions. And it was because we had this really good left back, Luke Shaw, who had the best season of his career. So the two of them on the same side of the field just unlocked something in both of them. And I think we're seeing a little bit of that with Johnny Perez and Andy Nahar playing on the same side. So yeah, it's fun watching both those guys, but they are
Yeah.
something else. Andy Nahar, you're not supposed to play that way as a right back. You're supposed to just like sit back, play a little defense, stay wide, put in some crosses. He's just doing insane stuff all game long, every game. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, he. I mean, you can't deny that guy, and I think we have Nahar on at a pretty decent price, if I can remember. Um, and I hope he can stay with the club for as long as he can. You know, he is one of those that is also he's not young necessarily, but he's playing at this level right now. So who knows how long that can go on for. Uh,
Yeah,
Pruitt,
you hate to already be looking ahead when we're in the middle of like a great season. But there was some talk going on in of the one of the discords that I'm in for Nashville. I see a lot of people talking about like what do we do with him because we signed him to a 1 year contract. I think they mostly were kind of looking at him as kind of a bridge player for this season because we've got a guy Mackenzie Gaines. He's been out most of the season
mhm.
injured, but he's about I think a
Julian.
19 or 20-year-old right back. Yeah, who was supposed to be. Oh yeah, Julian. I think McKenzie was his older brother that was with us last season, but
Yeah.
one of them is a 19 or 20-year-old right back that I think Nashville SC expects to kind of be their right back of the future. So I think
Hmm.
kind of the plan expectation was, bring in this veteran, he'll be solid. Just you can plug him in, he can get us through the season. Maybe it even becomes a job share type thing as the season goes along. And then, his contract ends, we move it over to the young guy next season. But now we're going to be sitting there going, I don't know how we don't re-sign this guy if this continues for the rest of the season because he's been, just crazy to say when you've got Hani Mukhtar and Sam Surge banging in goals left and right. But I would almost say Andy Nahar's been our MVP this season, which is crazy to say, but he's been incredible. So it's gonna be a big decision this offseason to see if they bring him back after, I think they probably were planning on it being like a one and done, just kind of bridge year contract. But
Yeah.
it's been fun to watch.
Yeah, and same thing with Perez. I've been trying to learn more about uh, his terms and stuff because he's on loan with us. But I think
Mm-mm.
if we wanted to buy him, we didn't have enough of the made up money or something like that. But do you know more about that than what I'm saying right now?
Yeah, I think his loan is supposed to expire. I guess it would be July 20 something, whenever the transfer window reopens for MLS. But I think we have two options on it. We can either make it a permanent transfer, which I do believe you're right. We'd have to move some money around or find some kind of other roster mechanism to free up some space to make it a permanent move. But I do think we also still have the option to extend the loan through the remainder of the MLS season for this year. So I think we've got some flexibility in terms of extending the loan if we want to do that there. I could be wrong about that, but for some reason, I remember somebody saying that was still an option that was on the table for that one. So
Yeah.
I think, it's, you never know. MLS is so weird with the roster rules, salary caps, and stuff like that. But,
Mhm.
it would be shocking to me if they don't find a way to make sure he's here at least for the rest of the season, if not longer.
Yeah, I think Perez is a no brainer. Um, and I hate I hate to kind of get off topic, but I do think that Schaffelberg is probably on his way out. Unfortunately, as much as he seems like a nice guy, does a lot for the team and the media and stuff, but uh, it just hasn't really clicked, and I think we could maybe get some better value in another form of that. But yeah, I see Schaffelberg being on the way out. Do you think he just hasn't had enough chance, or do you think that he probably should look elsewhere?
I think it's unfortunate he's kind of been unlucky this season because he's had some injury issues, and the
Hmm.
worst thing that can happen to you when you're out with injuries is that the people who are playing your spot come out and really do really well. I mean, Johnny Perez, Ahmad Kassam,
Hmm.
um, Alex Muehl have had incredible seasons, in those wing positions. We still have Tyler Boyd, expected to come back at some point from his injury that he suffered last season, the torn ACL. So wing
Hmm.
depth is something we have established a good bit of. And, I was kind of concerned for him, and I wasn't the only one, just even coming into the season before the injuries kind of slowed the start of the season, because of our more the wingers don't play like traditional wingers. They kind of interchange. They'll come inside and almost be center mid sometimes. Sometimes they'll get
Hmm.
higher and be like strikers. He's more of an out and out, wide player. Like he's more of a traditional winger. So his way of playing previously, didn't necessarily fit with the way it looked like we were going to play. But the full times he's got to come in, he's still been pretty good. He's still been pretty useful. It's not like he's looked like a fish out of water or anything like that. The Chicago game in particular, he was a weapon. They could not do anything to stop him in that game. So he's still got something there. I think it's just been between international duty and in injuries. He just really hasn't been able to get a foothold in the season, really getting a chance to really kind of show what if he's capable of kind of playing the BJ Callahan system. So, if there was a substantial offer for him, it wouldn't be surprising to me if Nashville C was willing to listen to offers, just because like you said, if it creates some roster flexibility for them to be able to do some stuff in some other positions, I'm sure they'd be willing to do that. But at the same time, I don't think they're just going to give him away for nothing. Like if the right offer comes, I wouldn't be surprised if they'll listen. But at the same time, I don't think they're going to be trying to push him out or anything like that, because having depth like this is something we've never really had in Nashville SC. So like I think the club is like I said, willing to listen, but at the same time they'd be happy to have him available in the team too. So we'll see what happens with that going forward. Because I mean I think we do still have also, if I'm not mistaken, a U22 roster spot available, which is what they've used to sign Ahmad Kassam. So there's a potential. I mean, like, there's no real rumors or anything out there, but we do have the potential of potentially using that to fill another spot in the squad if we wanted to. But I don't know. It'll be interesting. I think the transfer window opens like July 24th, 25th, 26th, something like that. So
Oh,
we'll start to see what's going on there. It's funny. I mean, we're playing his former club Toronto Saturday, and they just got rid of their two big disastrous Italian designated player signings that were dragging their team down for the last 3 years. So they might be in the market for some interesting attacking players that have a little lineage up there in Canada that are popular with the locals. So I don't know that there's there's no rumors or anything like that, but I mean that would make a lot of sense to me. For him to go back home, because that would be a big boost for them. Because I think he's pretty popular with the Canadian national team and their fans too. So I don't know.
yeah.
I hope he stays. I like him a lot, but at the same
Hmm.
time, like you said, I would agree that it does seem like there's a the door for his time here is closing because just the other players have done so well in his absence, and that's what always you run that risk when you get stuck in those injury situations. Is the old saying in sports is like, yeah, you shouldn't lose your starting position due to injury, but if you're out and somebody's falling, there's only so much you can do.
Yeah. Uh, do we do we need to beat the dead horse of the Miami Joe Willis incident?
No, because I mean, it's just not really something like I'm sure everybody's talked about it to death. I'm sure he, has put it behind him. Judging
Yeah.
how he performed about Columbus, it doesn't seem like it's something that's weighing on him that's going to drag him down. Those things happen. Like one of my best friends is goalkeeper, his whole life, college goalkeeper. I love when those things happen because I'll like look right at him and go, yeah, that's like how you used to play, right? And he's like, no, what are you talking about? But it's it's one of those things, especially now because like Joe Willis is kind of in that like weird limbo spot where I'm pretty sure, when he started playing, goalkeepers were still kind of mostly just goalkeepers.
Hmm.
And probably about when he was about, midway through his professional career is when it really became more of an onus for goalkeepers to be able to play with the ball at their feet, for them to be like an extra outlet to pass the ball, to be able to like hit, big passes and stuff like that. So, that's always been one of the criticisms of him, is that he's not as strong with his feet as like, modern goalkeepers are. But, I've I'm a little old school in that regard. I'm like, well, if you save the goals, that's your job. Make the saves. I don't really care if you can hit a Aiden Nahar style pass up to Sam Surge. We've got Aiden Nahar to do that. You just keep the ball out of the back of the net is all I need my goalkeeper to do. But yeah, he seems like he put that one behind him.
Yeah, I agree full heartedly. Matt has been our correspondent on the podcast for the Club World Cup, which recently came to an end with Chelsea winning. Who did Chelsea play again?
The final was them and PSG Paris Saint Germain. They won 3-0. Which my goalkeeper friend that I mentioned, he's a Chelsea fan, so that was another just tough pill to swallow to get to see him have all that joy and be like so happy about that. And that was one of those that game is because I don't like PSG and I don't like
Mhm.
Chelsea, so like by the time I really enjoyed most of the tournament, but when it got to be those two left in the final, I was kind of like, man, how'd we end up here? Could we have had at least like one of the like fun teams from like Brazil or like one of the underdog teams kind of make a run instead of these two that I just really don't have any love for. But it was a fun tournament overall. I thought it went a lot better than a lot of people thought, just because everybody was kind of like it was. Oh, it's just a money grab. It's just a money grab, which it was. But once they got on the field, once they played the games, it was fun. It was entertaining. It did a good job of filling. Because if we hadn't had those games for the last month or so, what were we going to watch? Baseball. I mean, the Braves stink, so I'm not even watching as much baseball as I normally do in the summer. So I've just been like have nothing to watch. So, but yeah, I thought it was a fun tournament. I look forward to see how they FIFA modifies it and adjusts it and grows it in future iterations.
I did watch the PSG versus Real Madrid game, and that was just a bloodbath. But I don't have too much comment. The one thing about the Chelsea game that just it made me laugh and kind of puzzled me was that like Trump handed off the trophy. I just it was two non-American
Oh
teams
yeah,
playing, and I was just like, what is why is he here? And that's something that made me laugh.
yeah, yeah. Chelsea photoshopping him out of all like the pictures they posted on like Instagram and their different like social media. That was like one of the top few times I've been like, okay, Chelsea, good job. You did something good for once. I was like, like everybody was like, "Oh, he wanted to be part of the celebration." I'm like, he's like 90 years old. There's a chance he just couldn't walk fast enough to get out of the way. I was like, it's like, but he is kind of a glory hog, so I'm sure there was a part of him that was like, I'll just stay here and see the trophy get lifted. But those are also like, he's a very old man. I don't know that he could get out of there as fast as he does quickly. He probably just did not have been there in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I was funny. I was like, if he was like at the Super Bowl, that makes more sense. But the Club World Cup is just any American president. I don't think really. I don't know unless it's an American team. But either way, moving back into sort of my expertise of things is the NBA free agency is happening right now, and there's been a lot of huge things happen. Um, I don't. Did we talk about KD going to Houston?
I think that might have happened like right on the last episode when we were recording. So I think you might have hit on it the last time we talked.
Okay, yeah, so I completely forgot about that. But my guy Damian Lillard today, hold on, I will, you know, brought this out just for the
Nice,
episode. Uh, he's been with the
nice.
Bucks for the past two or three, I think 2 seasons. And he actually signed with Portland today for 3 more years, which is it's very shocking to me because a little bit of background on it is Giannis Antetokounmpo. What I can't pronounce it, but
Mhm.
also part owner of Nashville SC, so we're topical still. Um, he was like demanding Bucks. He's like, if we don't start getting championship serious, I think that I may have to go somewhere else. And that's whenever they picked up Damian Lillard. And now that Damian Lillard is gone, I I'm a little interested to see what that means for Giannis at the Bucks. It's been rumored that he's looking to go other places, but they weren't super serious. And with the Bucks not really chasing after Damian Lillard or a replacement, I feel like that might be an anticipation that Giannis is going somewhere else. He's their face. He's the biggest player on the team, the best player on the team. So that's a hard pill to swallow and let go of easily, but he may be forcing their hand. Um, so I would say that we see some sort of movement in the next week from Giannis. I'll go ahead and predict that. But I'm glad to see Damian Lillard went back to Portland. You know, they were loyal to him forever, and seeing him not retire as a Trailblazer always felt weird to me. It's the same thing as like when Derrick Rose went to the Grizzlies for like his last season. Whenever I was like, you're a Chicago Bull, man. Um, Damian Lillard is a Trailblazer. Also, I don't know where Lillard is going to sit on the current Trailblazer team because they have like their young star now is a point guard, and like the face that they are moving forward is a point guard. So I'm saying that they slide one of them probably to the two spot. Damian Lillard is one of the best 3 point shooters ever. So if it is either of them, it's probably going to be him. I don't know. It's going to be super interesting to see play out. Um, Something that we didn't know in the last episode, actually, with the Kevin Durant trade, is that it was um, so something that I did mention in the last episode, Matt, was the Kevin Durant trade was a 7 trade deal, which is historic
Mm-hmm.
size for the league, um, and we didn't know that until later parts were finalized recently, sending a lot of people a little bit everywhere. Um,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think last time it had been announced that he was going traded to Houston, but then since then, like you said, the details have come out that it was actually like some crazy 17 trade with all these moving parts, people going all over the place. But like it was like one of those. These happen in like baseball sometimes. Never that many teams, but there's always these trades in baseball where it's like 10 people, you have no idea who they are, or like maybe if you're a diehard baseball fan, you know who they are, and then the one really good guy goes, and that's like the key part of the trade. Like that seems like that was like, at least from a casual fan like me, that was what the Kevin Durant trade was like. There's a lot of people whose names might sound vaguely familiar going to these different places, and then the big guy that you definitely know this is where he's going. So this is the main thing that you're looking at and caring about.
Yeah. Yeah, it was insane to see, but it was super cool. And then another big Suns thing happened. I don't know. Do you know who Bradley Bill is?
I'm aware of him. He was like with the Wizards or Bullets or whatever they're called these days for a while, and like he was one of the ones that Phoenix brought in when they were trying to really load up and kind of go for it with Durant and Booker and the other players that they have there, and he's just not really panned out in his time in
Oh,
Phoenix. It seems like.
he had the I believe it was the largest NBA contract with the Suns, and he also had a no trade clause. And he just, to be frank, he sucked. And everyone, I mean, every Phoenix fan has been like, who gave him this contract? They they hate Bradley Bill. And he just recently got traded to the Clippers, so that was super surprising to see. Um, I think he took a little bit of a pay cut or something. Something worked out to where I don't know what he'll do with the Clippers. The Suns team was just one of the most like failed experiments of the NBA. So I'm excited to see these new rosters because there's been a lot of stuff happen. I'm excited to see them once they pan out into the next season. Do you have anything to add to
Yeah,
that?
yeah. I mean, like I follow it a lot more casually than you do. I mean, sometimes I think the off season of the NBA is more interesting than like the actual regular season, the games and stuff like that. But one thing I keep like seems weird to me is like with the injuries that happened late in the playoffs for the Celtics, like their big player that tore his Achilles,
Tatum.
Pacers like yeah, the Pacers key player Halliburton, he also tore his Achilles. So I keep hearing people saying like the East is going to be weird next year because like
Mm-hmm.
there's those are the top two teams and they're both lost like their best players for the majority, if not all of next season. Injuries happen so late, so that the East is going to be so wide open. And to your point, like the Milwaukee's sitting there with like one of the best players in the NBA, and just he get moved to somebody like in the East, like the Knicks, who like seemed like they were pretty close to being one of the teams in the mix for the titles, or they like make a big move. Like I know there's been like a lot of weird stuff around LeBron where he picked up his option with LA, but it kind of seems like he maybe wants to leave LA type thing. Where it was, I guess the deal is if he just left as a free agent, they'd be left out to dry. So he was weirdly trying to do the right thing by taking a huge mega contract with the Lakers, but now it's kind of in limbo if he's actually going to play there or not. So I
Yeah.
kind of, to your point, you're talking about there might be something coming with Giannis. It just looking at how, like, there's no clear top team in the East, and you've got two stars of that magnitude kind of sort of in a bit of limbo. It wouldn't be surprising to me if one or both of them, somebody takes a swing on them in the
Hmm.
Eastern Conference trying to, like, you know, have that open spot now that the top two teams seem to be down a peg with their injuries. So that's like I said, sometimes the offseason of the NBA is more fun than the regular season. So watching what's still to come, what might still happen, seems like it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and the LeBron thing was so confusing to me. It is the only time ever that he's picked up his player option, and I just, I mean, I was trying to read into it and trying to research it, and I just couldn't really find any rhyme or reason for it. Um, but we'll see where he goes. Wherever he goes, we'll probably see another person with maybe a similar last name going as well. Uh, but uh, yeah, so we'll see how that plays out. I'm sure we'll talk about it. Uh, I had more. I know we've talked about my goal in life of becoming a professional carnival game worker, and I have some
Mhm.
more games prepared for you. I felt like the last time my first game was a little weak, so I kind of want to revamp that and try some new things out with it. Um, so I want you to blind rank these five Nashville SC players. Um, I will say this time it is active and non-active players.
All right.
So for the first name, this is a name that I actually had never heard of. There's two on here that I have no clue who they are. So Michael Reed is the first name.
Michael Reed, he played, if I'm not mistaken, during the USL era. I don't think he was ever with us when we bumped up to MLS, but he was, I believe, a holding midfielder. I think he was our captain during the 2 years we played USL, playing games at the Sound Stadium. So, I mean, he was a solid player for that level. I think he's still in the area coaching like youth teams and stuff like that. But, solid, decent enough player, but, not quite the high level that we've seen now that Nashville SC's been into the MLS. I'll rank him fourth just
Fourth.
because he was captain. He was a good player at that level, and if there's the clue you gave that there's another player you've not heard of, I'm wondering who that could have been. But yeah, Michael Will was pretty. He was decent for USL level, but he wouldn't have ranked above anybody that's played on the MLS team for the most part.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I'll have to look into him. But okay, so the next player is a player that I have heard of. I've actually met him. He signed a jersey, signed a ball, and that is Lucas McNaughton.
Lucas McNaughton. Ah, man, I like Lucas McNaughton a lot. He did a lot of those fan events, like like you said, you met him, he signed the ball. Like he was at a lot of the player appearance things. Like seemed like he was always like one of those dudes who was willing to interact with fans, was willing to like be around. So it was kind of a bummer when we traded him because he had also been, just beyond all that, was pretty solid on the field. I think the
Hmm.
main thing that seemed to be the deciding factor with us moving on from him was the injury issues he kind of started to have towards the end of his time here, and it seems like just that's continued in DC United because he's been out injured both times we played. I think all three times we played them this season. So hate to see that for him because he, like you said, he's a nice guy. He's a good player on the field. I'll go third though, just because it was such a short stint and just kind of didn't really pan out the way it looked like it could have when he first came in and was looking like he was destined to be Walker Zimmerman's long-term partner there for a little bit of a stretch. So I'll put him third on this blind list.
Cool. And then the next one is the guy that I haven't heard of, so I may pronounce this name wrong. CJ Sapong.
Okay, CJ Sapong. He was with us probably. I think he came in, either came in our second season or third season in MLS. He was our striker. Had one really good season for us where he scored about 19, 20 goals, something like that in one season. Maybe not that many, but Then he went on a crazy streak where he just didn't score at all, which is insane for a
Mhm.
striker. Like, to just not score. Like, he literally was coming up on going a full calendar year without scoring a goal. And like, I was even counting it down on like the live streams and like the game vlogs. Like, we are this many days away from CJ Slipon going a full calendar year without scoring a goal. And I think he was at like 340, 350, something like that, days. And we traded him
Yeah.
to Toronto. And I was like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? We were so close. And he scored in his first game for Toronto. I don't think he ever scored again for them. And I think they cut him before the season ended. So one really awesome season. And then just
Mhm.
that was about it. That one really good season is probably better than the best we saw of Lucas McNaughton. And definitely, I'm going to have somebody terrible at 5 now, but I'll put him at seconds. But this is going to be a terrible. This is going to be, you got to be better on this one, I think, than you did on the other one because I'm going to end up with somebody really good at 5 and somebody weird at 1. So, but I'll go second just because the one season he had was a really, really good season. I think previous to this season, I think it was the 2021 season when we had a
Mhm.
really good season. So I think he was one of the key contributors to what was previously the best season in Nashville SC history. So for that, I will give him a little bit of credit, even though he had that crazy streak of not scoring after that. I'll put him second.
Okay, cool. So you got your 1 in 5 spot open, and here's a guy that is dear to all Nashville SC fans, but it might be hard to place him somewhere on this, which is Dax McCarthy.
Oh man, I'll just easily put Dax McCarty one because I think we almost like didn't appreciate what he was bringing to the team until he was gone. Because um, when he left for Atlanta last year, like our midfield just completely was a disaster. And it's one of those things where you kind of were looking at it from the outside, going, "Yeah, he's older. He can't really run that much anymore. He doesn't have, can't play as many games in a row and all this stuff." But then just last year, our midfield was just cheddar cheese, just people passing through us. We had nobody in the midfield who could make any kind of forward passes that really created attacks. And that was, for, losing his mobility a little bit, not quite being the spry spring chicken he once was, Dax could still, find the key passes. He could play those passes that unlock defenses still. He was still kind of a little like probably not covering as much ground as Eddie, but he was that Eddie style player where he was, not the biggest, not the most physical, but he was always in people's grill. He was always getting under people's skin. He was always getting a little bit of an underappreciation for Dax because we saw how much we missed him once he was gone. So I'll just put him at number one.
And I
Another guy
think,
I've met several times who to the meeting guys and they're nice. I'll give him extra credit for that because I've met him several times and he's very nice too.
yeah, I think I've seen the picture. I think it was you and nephew P at one of the meet the team
Mm-hmm.
events, where you guys have met him, and he was wearing like between the toe flip flops. I remember that those haunt me personally, but anyway, you pulled it off again, Matt. I think that you beat the Carnival Carney, so I think I need to get a little bit better at these because at your number 5 spot, and this may be controversial, is Randall Liao.
Mm. I would probably put him above Reed if I was, doing it unblind, just because, like I said, Reed was good for the USL level, but not making it
Mhm.
MLS. You gotta take a little bit off him. And but Leo kind of he's in that same range, that same kind of ballpark as McNaughton, where flashes of brilliance. Like he legitimately like for the first part of the first season Nashville SC, he was the star of the team. It wasn't even Hadi Mukhtar at that point in time. So he was the guy. He was the one everybody was talking about. And then just the injuries and everything started piling up and just never could quite get back to that level. So that's disappointing. I think he's still a fan favorite. He got a good round of applause in the Open Cup when he came on for DC United. So
Okay.
he's somebody I don't think anybody has any ill will towards. I mean, that's kind of one thing that's sort of interesting about Nashville. See, I don't know that we have any players that have left that like the fan base dislikes or like would boo when they came back, unless I'm like just blanking on something. I think most of the guys here were, pretty popular. I don't think we've had anybody that's like left us in disgrace or like was like a scumbag on the way out or anything like that, unless I'm just
Yeah.
completely blanking on something. But yeah, he could if things had gone a little bit differently, he might be the first Nashville SC legend. But he started to wear down, and Honey Mukhtar took the ball and never looked back.
Yeah. So I think you did pretty well here. Uh, you just sipped out of a Titans Cup. We haven't been able to talk about really NFL. There hasn't been much happening, I don't think. So I also asked ChatGPT for 5 random quarterback names that I'd also ask you to blind rank, just so we can get a little bit of
Okay.
football in the mix. Um, so the first name is Baker Mayfield.
Mm. I'm a big Baker Mayfield fan. I've been a fan of his since his college days. I just like the way he plays, like his style. I always have something like when like it's a little bit of the shorter quarterbacks that kind of are a little bit scrappy. You have to kind of be a little bit of the cliche now, have that dog in them type dude. So I've always been a big fan of him. Like I'm glad it's like turned around for him and worked out for him in Tampa Bay because I kind of thought he got pretty raw deal getting kind of run out of Cleveland for Deshaun Watson of all people, especially because he got Cleveland like their first playoff win since they came back into the NFL, and then there's like we're going to get rid of you for this whatever you want to say about Deshaun Watson. So I'm glad he was able to kind of resuscitate things and get things going in Tampa Bay. So I'll put him second. I'll go second. I don't have any
Second.
idea what's coming on this one. I don't. It's a lot more wide ranging than there's a lot more quarterbacks in history than there are Nashville SC players. So, but Baker's one of my favorites in the NFL right now. So I'll go second.
And I will say I think that every quarterback on this list is active. Just so.
Okay.
Um, the next name is Jaden Daniels.
Ooh, that's a tough one because he's second year, but he had a really good rookie season. Fun player to watch. Exciting young up and coming talent. I'll probably go. I don't know. I guess I'm gonna go third or fourth for him. I'll go third just because he was really good last year. It was a lot of fun. He was fun at LSU too, so he's got kind of that same kind of big playability where you don't know what's going to happen anytime he's got the ball. Feels a little high after only 1 year. I'll go fourth. I'm going to go fourth for him. I'm going to put him down. I'll say you still got to earn it, young man. 1 year under your belt. We can't get ahead of ourselves yet, but you've had a good start. Not, but we got to keep it going. No sophomore slump. Come back, do this again next year. He might be a little higher.
Yeah, I think he's one of those guys that I hear a lot of buzz around. I don't really I haven't really watched much of his play, but so we have one, three, and five left. Um, so
Correct.
so your next name, and I feel like this guy gets more hate than what I would imagine. Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, I'll put him third because I mean he's proven he's a winner kind of at every level. Won at Alabama, then when he went to Oklahoma, he was pretty successful there. Obviously, he's had good times with the Eagles, but I mean, I think he just gets knocked because he's not your traditional big armed Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, throw the ball for 5,000 yards a season type quarterback. So I think that holds him back a little bit, and he's not the full on exciting electric player that Lamar Jackson is and stuff like that. He's just kind of a basic, makes the right plays, makes the right decisions. Big strong guy can run himself. He's not like he's slow or anything like that. He's just kind of a very I think he's just kind of a very middle of the road quarterback and everything he does. He's very solid at everything, but there's other than the tush push, there's probably nothing that he's like blow you out of the water spectacular at. So I think that's probably why people give him a little bit of grief, just because in the era where quarterbacks are breaking every record there is to break, he's just kind of you know the standard kind of guy. So I'll put him. He's perfect right in the middle quarterback. I'll put him third.
Okay, cool. And this guy I don't really know much about, but ChatGPT gave it to me. Jared Goff.
Okay, so Jared Goff, he's actually got a loose connection to the Titans. He was the first overall draft pick for the Rams when I think they were, I can't remember if they were still in St. Louis when they took him or if that was right after they moved back to Los Angeles. Well, one way or the other, he was the first overall pick, and the Titans had that pick, the first overall pick, and they traded it to St. Louis because I want to say that was we already had Marcus Mariota at that point in time, so we didn't need a quarterback, so we traded, and I think we ended up drafting Jack Conklin, who was a pretty solid right tackle for us for a few years. Goff's kind of in that same range as Hurts, where he's a solid player, but he's not like spectacular blow you out of the water. Like he's got traded to the Lions after a few rough years in Los Angeles, but he did take Los Angeles to a Super Bowl before that. But he's very similar to Jalen Hurts, except he's more of a traditional passing style quarterback. But he's that guy who's just going to do all the right things. He's not going to be flashy or spectacular. Um, Dang, this is tough because I wouldn't really put him as being better than the other ones I have on this list, but I'm really worried about what the last one that's going to be. It's going to be somebody really weird. If I, it's going to be, I'll put Goff at fifth. I don't think that's really fair to him necessarily, but I also don't know that I would be able to. say I like him better than the other quarterbacks that we've already named anyway. So I'll put him fifth and take the risk and see what's going to come my way at number one. I'm probably going to put Will Levis at number one or something like that, I guess. But yeah, I'll put Goff at fifth.
Well, Matt, I hope you have champagne, even though you're not a drinker, in your Titans cup, because you just declared that Will Levis is the best quarterback in the league right now. It's undisputable. Matt said it. You can quote him.
Hey, well, hey, if that's the case, that's good news for the Titans because we need to get him out of here and trade him. So if he's the best quarterback in the NFL, we're going to get a haul and be able to load up with weapons around Cam Ward. So come on, NFL teams, come get the number one quarterback in the NFL, Will Levis. I just had an inkling. I don't know why Will Levis's name popped in my head as soon as I was like, it's going to be Will Levis, isn't it? It's going to be Will Levis, isn't it?
I
I don't know. I kind of have a little bit of, I have the same feeling to him about Baker. I mean, he obviously hasn't done anywhere close to what Baker even did in Cleveland, but he's got,
mm,
the tools. He's got, the physical traits. I just don't think he's quite put it all together on the mental side yet. So, yeah,
yeah.
I don't, and I think he seems like he's a nice enough guy. So I don't know. I feel bad for him because it just, it's been a tough situation. It never works out really well for young quarterbacks when there's constant change at the coaching position, constant change with the weapons all around you all the time. It's a tough spot to be in, but it is what it is. He's not the best quarterback in the NFL, but here we are.
Well, I'm glad that I'm getting better because the Carney finally won. Uh, you know, the real
Yeah.
lesson there is that it's always rigged from the start. Chat GPT did not give me Will Levis. I don't think they know who that is. I threw that on there. Um, so it was rigged, but that's part of the biz. Um,
Yep.
going going back to Nashville and blue, um, the MLS archive throwback collection. We were kind of talking about it on Instagram, and you you joked with me. You said my wife's threatened to steal my credit card, and dude, it's honestly it's been one of my favorite like pieces of merch. Besides, I think Johnny Cash will always be like the number one line to me.
Hmm.
But this is definitely a second. The Adidas shoes, the jacket, the kit. Obviously, the kit looks way better than the leaks. And then
Hmm.
another kind of hidden thing that I noticed during the game was I really like Joe Willis's goalkeeper jersey, but it's
Hmm.
kind of Tennessee orange with the throwback.
I always kind of wondered if like that was like an intentional thing with like the um, you know, archive kit, the Nashville nostalgia being so kind of a throwback one. I actually that popped in my head like when I saw Willis in that because it was a very UT orange where I was like, I wonder if that's almost like intentional. Is like the goalkeeper doesn't get to be a part of the cool throwback kit. Let's give him something that's kind of signature to Tennessee too, and went a little orange there. That actually did pop in my head. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but it
Well,
was something I took a little bit of a note of.
it has the same like throwback lettering, the like Opryland homage, I guess, of the
Hmm.
Nashville on that one. Um,
Yeah.
which I don't really know too much history with the Opryland stuff, but I've obviously heard people talk about it when they're talking about this kit. How much
Hmm.
did you actually end up spending, or what did you end up getting?
I didn't get anything. My buddy bought me the hat from the collection
Mm,
because he knew that I liked it, and I just got like this bump up in position at my job. So he's like, "Hey, this is your promotion present for getting a promotion." I was like, "Oh, cool, thanks." Now I can justify not buying anything. I can go home and tell my wife, "Oh, I didn't actually buy anything, but I did get
yeah,
this cool new hat." But yeah, I'll probably get like some of the other stuff for the season. I wasn't like in a huge rush to get any of it because like the jerseys, like they're going to be there all season long, so I'll get a
yeah,
jersey eventually. But yeah, I like the hat a lot. There was the blue, dark blue crew neck sweater, like that kind of had the old, like kind of college font, like from the old college looking sweater. I was like, that's a really cool one, but it's like 117 degrees at the game, so it was like did not
yeah,
feel like the appropriate time to buy the sweater, the shoes, the gazelles, and like the font with the stuff was really cool. I mean, I would have honestly probably if I just had the funds, I would have bought every single piece of merch from that. And then I don't know if you saw this today, they released that they're gonna have a special edition Star Wars scarf at the game this Saturday because it's gonna be Star Wars night. So I'm like, we had like 2 years where there was like nothing I wanted to buy from the team, and now like in like the
yeah.
last like 3 months between like the hot chicken shirt, the freaking
Mhm.
Star Wars stuff, the new third kit, I'm just like I think they almost planned it when like the whatever the Heart of Music City, the dark blue kit came out this season. They're like, we
Yeah.
don't have to worry about that one. We got a lot of stuff coming down the pipeline. Let's just put a blue kit out. And we'll get them. We'll get all their money later this season. Because like now, I'm like every week, I'm like,
Yeah.
there's something new that I'm like, I think I said on Twitter, it's like I'm gonna have to take out a loan to be able to cover all this stuff.
Yeah, I didn't know about the Star Wars scarf. That's I'm gonna have to find someone to pick that up for me. But I yeah, so I just want to give a shout out to all the people working on the merch at Nashville SC, and honestly the media, social media too. I feel like everyone in the club has just been on 120 this season, which has been super cool to see as a fan. Um,
Yeah, yeah. Going back to even like the YouTube series they did during like training camp. I mean,
yeah,
they've been it's worked out really well because the team's been so good this year. But they, to your point, have done a really, really good job of presenting the team, promoting the team, putting content out there that's engaging and entertaining, not just like generic. Like here's the team getting on a plane pictures and stuff like that. And like
yeah.
the merch has been better. Like the everything on the field, off the field, it has been a really fun year to be a Nashville SC fan. The whole club, top to bottom, has been doing a great job.
Um, So I think we're coming at the end of our long stretch of games. I think after this one we get our little break, I believe. Um, Facing against Toronto this Saturday. What do you think?
Yeah, Toronto's been on like a 3 or 4 year run of just being kind of a bottom dweller in the MLS. And the big story for them this season was they finally cut ties with their two Italian players, Bernadeschi and Insigne, who they brought in as designated players that were supposed to be kind of the big players for them that were supposed to be kind of like the ones that sparked the new era of Toronto after they've been pretty solid during their early days in the league, but just never worked out. Haven't made the playoffs once since they brought those two guys in. They released or sold, or I don't know exactly what to do, mutually agreed to part ways with both of them. So they have their designated player positions back open now. So at some point, I don't know if it'll be this summer, this transfer window, or if it's more of like a long term rebuild. They'll start to try to right the ship and get back to doing things the right way up there because they were very successful in their early days back in the day when they had Michael and Bob Bradley up there steering the ship. They had some really good teams up there. Josie Altidore was up there for a minute, I think, too. So, but yeah, they've just been pretty much a disaster since those guys came in 2021, 2020, something like that. So, um, don't see any reason to expect anything to change now. Although I do feel like weirdly, like they're one of those teams that's like never been good, but always weirdly somehow plays Nashville SC tough. I don't know if that's just like a weird
Mm,
brainworm I have. That's not a true thing. That's just something that's always been in my head that Toronto's a team where even when they're bad, I'm like, but they always give us a good game. So I don't know. I would think the way we've been playing, would expect to see more of the same against one of those lesser opponents. Because that's one thing I think just beyond playing good against the good teams. One thing that's been very different about this Nashville SC team this season is they've taken care of the bad teams more than anything. We haven't really
mm,
a couple draws here and there. That one wonky DC United game at home.
mm,
Outside of that, we've kind of handled the bad teams. Sometimes it wasn't always pretty, but we've gotten the results we needed to there. So um, you think we actually have maybe like one more game before?
okay.
Oh yeah, we go to San Diego next Friday. So
Mm,
so yeah, I think the one thing that kind of makes this one hard to predict, and I said this on the Miami podcast. I thought we were going to do it again against Columbus. I keep thinking at some point in time we have to kind of rotate the squad and rest some players because we've played like maybe one or two changes our best 11 like four straight
mm,
games, and we've been playing games like every 2 days. So at some point in time something has to give. Somebody's got to get a rest. And now that I'm looking at that, we've got a short week where we play San Diego at San Diego. I just mentioned this. I didn't even realize this was coming up. A West Coast trip. We got to go all the way to San Diego on a short
mm,
week. So yeah, I could see like a Matthew Cochran coming into this game,
mm,
given like maybe Eddie Taxeth gets a rest because he runs a million miles an hour every game. He's got to even he. I don't think he'd ever ask for a rest, but he probably needs one.
mm,
Nahar, he hasn't been rotated out in a minute, so we could see Josh Bauer or maybe even Gaines in this match. I think who else might come in? Johnny Perez is going to be suspended, which is hilarious. Like he got suspended for the red card, then he came back and he got his fifth yellow card of the season, so we got a second suspension now. So he's out for this game. So somebody Schaffelberg, Kassam, somebody will be coming in for him. So there'll be some forced rotation in that regard. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw, because a lot of people have been talking, because Jason Palacios was so good in Walker Zimmerman's absence. There was going to be a tough decision for BJ Callen to make. Was when Walker did come back, was it going to be Walker and Palacios, or was it going to be Walker and Maurer? First game, Jack Maurer got the decision there, but I could see them switching that out for this next game just to keep things rotating, keep things fresh. Go Palacios and Zimmerman, and
Hmm.
give them a run out. So I think there will be some rotation just because it feels like there has to at some point in time with the amount of
Yeah.
games we've been playing and stuff like that. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe BJ's sees the blood in the water, sees how well things are going, and it's just like feels like strike while the iron's hot, keep pushing, don't let the momentum go down. So be interesting to see what kind of lineup we put out. But realistically, I would think. Look, I want to look at what Toronto's recent results have been to just kind of see because I just they're 5, 6, and 11, so they're not great. Let's see recent. They just beat San Diego in their most recent games. That's a decent result. Tied Atlanta, lost to New York City FC, beat Portland. So they're on a decent little run here. Only one loss in like their last 5 games, it looks like. So they're in, they're okay right now. But I
Hmm.
mean, those teams are playing at the level that Nashville SC is playing right now. So I mean, I think we're a lot tougher test than some of those teams that I just mentioned that they've been playing lately. So we'll see what happens. Let's look at
Hmm.
who have them in play their lineup real quick. I want to get a quick glance because I don't even know who's on their team anymore now. I feel like go with those two Italian guys. So let's see. Who did they start against San Diego? See if there's any names I recognize. Yeah, I don't know any of these names. Oh, Sean Johnson. He used to be like a pretty good goalkeeper that was in the mix with the national team for a little while. So they have a good goalkeeper. That's one thing they've got going for them. So yeah, good goalkeeper. Do I know any of these other names? Nope, I don't know any of these other names. That's probably a bad sign for my MLS knowledge that I just don't know any of these names. But they've got a good goalkeeper, so. But like I said, looks like the results have been okay in the last few, but 5, 6, and 11 overall.
Yeah.
Nashville SC's been 10 games unbeaten at home. They got to come in here and try to get a result. I like our chances.
Yeah, and I share the exact same sentiment with you that I think there needs to be some rotation coming. I just, I really just don't want anyone to get injured. I'm okay with, you know, not playing our full our starting team, or I'm okay with even losing a game if that prevents some of our best players from getting injured. Of course, they have medical people that are just on top of that 24/7, so they know what the right call is. But I do worry about this short stretch that is longer than I initially thought it was. I that's a lot of work, especially when you account for practice is probably somewhere in there. A player could, not sleep as well on while traveling. So there's a lot of factors I think makes me kind of think we should take these next two games with a lot of caution. But regardless, we're on a winning. Well, we're not on a winning streak, but we're on a good, we're in good form, and I think that we can win both of those games or at least draw.
It was crazy. Somebody mentioned this on, I don't know, it was another podcast where I heard this, but it feels like we've got a lot of season left to go. But we actually only, I think there's only 12 games left in the MLS season. And of those 12, I think we only have like 3 or 4 left at home. So it's like, even though it seems like we got a lot of season left, we're kind of actually getting into the home stretch, getting into like the crunch time. You know, we're really in the mix for what we're trying to do here this season type time. So, like I said, maybe it is just, pick a player or two to rotate, but really kind of
Mhm.
keep your foot on the gas a little bit.
Yeah, I've like each game. One of the commentators will be like, "This is week, blah blah blah," and I'm like, "Damn, dude, we're already this far into the season." And I mean, time flies when you're having fun, and winning is fun. So I can't complain that it's been going pretty quickly. Um, but unless you have any closing remarks, I think that we'll wrap it up here.
Nah, man, it's fun to finally be able to jump back on and talk little bit of everything again. So good to chat with you. I'm excited for the game Saturday and this home stretch of the season we got coming up.
Yeah, so thank you guys for listening. Hopefully we can every week. I feel like we're talking about finding our kind of consistent footing, and every week something happens. But thank you guys for watching and listening. We truly appreciate it. Uncle Matt on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, basically everything that you can find it. Go check him out. He just posted a new vlog recently of the Columbus game, and I'm sure there'll be more coming up. And then check me out on Wormy on YouTube, and I actually just started a new TikTok. It's called Dylan Tries to Read, Dillon. It's kind of going through me trying to find my footing as a reader because I've never been a reader, but something just clicked in me where I wanted to pick it up, and I've been really enjoying it. We talked a little bit about books, Matt. Um, but yeah, that's something I'm really pushing is the TikTok right now. So go check that out.